Excellent. Good morning, everybody. Really good to see you here, and warm welcome to our service this morning, which is an all-age service, which means we try to cater for all, and we're all staying together, so that's great. But we're going to begin by remembering what a great God we have, both in terms of who He is, but what He's done for us as well. And there's a couple of songs. The first one is "Our God is a Great Big God," and I understand there are actions. So who wants to come up and do the actions? Hey? Alfie? Kim, you'll just have to do it by yourself. Excellent. Right, let's sing.
Tree.
So special welcome this morning to our harvest service, where we're remembering all the amazing things the Lord God has provided to us. And as part of that, we want to give some of that back. And it's amazing to see all that there at the front. I don't know if you can all see it, but there's an amazing collection of things that have been given, which we're going to give to one of the local food banks. And there's loads there. But if you've got stuff to add or you'd like to add, do have a chat with Rachel at the end, because she'll be sorting that out in due course. So that's excellent. It's really good to be together. We're having lunch afterwards, and if you didn't put your name down, you're still very welcome to come. We'll make sure there's enough to go round. But you're very welcome to stay. There'll be drinks anyway afterwards, but then after that we'll be having soup and bread for lunch, and you're all very welcome to that. So that's that. A couple of things just to mention, long-term things for church people here. On Thursday this week at West End Chapel in Fareham, some friends of ours there, they've got a report from some missionaries who they've been supporting for many years out in Papua New Guinea, who are coming to the end of their time serving, and they're going to talk about all the stuff they've done, including translating the Bible into the local language there. In Papua New Guinea. So if you're interested in that, that's at 7:30 at West End Chapel this Thursday the 5th. So if you want more information about that, then do come and ask me afterwards. And also just longer term notice, well, slightly longer term, just that we've had a run of prayer meetings which have been really good. It's been a real blessing to get together and to pray together. And really appreciate your support of that, because I think it's right for us to come before the Lord in that way. We have had 3 midweeks in a row. We're not having anything in the middle of the week, apart from that thing I've just mentioned, but that's not here. But this church is not running anything this week in the middle of the week. But next Wednesday is the Bible study, which will be here at 7:30. So we'll be picking up, some of you might remember, Titus, which we were studying way back in probably July, the last time we looked at that. So we'll be back in there, and there's some really good bits coming up there. So if you want to join with that, if you haven't been before, that's fine. But we just get together to look more closely at part of the Bible. So we'll be doing that on October the 11th, which is a Wednesday. So that's just a few things to let you know about. And now we're going to have a quiz. Michelle's going to do a quiz. That sort of quiz. Do you hear hands? Yeah. Oh, you need room for someone to stand so that it can be seen while we're. Oh, I see. What about the numbers?
Wait till I say go. Got it? You can
Well, I was out for that, for reasons that will become clear. But who won?
We did.
Well done. Is that because you're better artists or better guesses? Okay. Well, we're going to learn a song now. It's a new song, but I think some of you will know it, so that will help. And it's a fairly straightforward song, but it's called "The Goodness of God." We're going to sing it now, and then actually we'll sing it at the end as well of the service. So this is sort of the first run to give you a bit of practice. So I think what we'll do is we'll just do it and stand and sing. Join in when you feel comfortable doing so, and we'll see how we get on. But you'll get a second go at the end of the service. So let's stand. I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. In every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness slight switch of the order. Carol is going to come. Carol is going somewhere very different in November, and she's going to come and tell us all about it.
Okay, I am going to, well, thank you so much for letting me do this for a start. It's really nice of David to ask me to do this because I want to tell you a little bit about a trip that I'm going to be going on in just a few weeks' time. Actually, it's about 5 weeks' time. I'm going to be going off to Kenya with a team of people. I'm just going to really explain a bit about what we're going to be doing. Now, we're going with an organisation called Through the Roof. Now, some of you may have heard of a lady called Johnny Erickson. Now, Johnny is probably now sort of maybe in her 70s, but when she was about 17 or 18 years old, she had a diving accident. She dove into some very shallow water, and as a result, broke her neck and is unable to feel anything from the neck down. So with Johnny, she's such a, those of you that have heard of her before will know how talented she is. Even though she cannot move her arms and legs, she can do things like paint and draw with using a pen in her mouth. She's a very, very talented lady and a great speaker. She goes around, I think, the world giving talks and things. But in the 80s, she set up an organisation called Through the Roof. Now, Through the Roof is an organisation that helps support people with disabilities. So even though Johnny is unable to walk, is unable to move her arms and do things like you and I can, God has used her not in spite of her disability, but because of her disability. And so she has done amazing things. So Through the Roof helps people with disabilities, and part of that organisation is under that umbrella is Wheels for the World. Now, Wheels for the World is the kind of international work. So what Wheels do is go to developing countries, mainly Africa, but they have been to other places as well. And they basically take wheelchairs, walking aids, and other equipment to help those in developing countries. So on the 7th of November, I'm going to be going with Wheels for the World to Kenya. I have been to Kenya before, to this particular place as well. So just want to explain a little bit about what we're going to be doing. So, right, okay. So at the moment, there's a big container full of walking aids, full of wheelchairs. About 150 wheelchairs are now actually in Kenya waiting for us. Now, this is something that maybe you could pray about, because at the moment the authorities aren't releasing the container. There's lots of negotiations with money and things. So if you could pray for that it will be released. So we do actually have these wheelchairs when we get there, otherwise we're in a spot of bother. So these wheelchairs, they were loaded up in this van a few weeks back and have travelled to Kenya. So we go as a team, so there's a team of us that go. So we have the team leader, Kathy, who is very great at organising us all and organising all, because there's a lot to organise in travel and what have you, and liaising with our partners over in Kenya. So we also have physiotherapists, because to be able to seat those with disabilities in their wheelchairs, we need our physios to be able to do that for us, and also to show perhaps family members how to do physio on their clients and on their family members. So I think on this trip we've got 4 physios. We've also got a technical team, because you can't just bung a person in a wheelchair. It's not as simple as that. Sometimes their disabilities mean that they have to adapt the wheelchair to make it suitable for each person. So that's where the tech team come in, and they have to use their imagination with the equipment, things, and the things that they've got to make these wheelchairs useful. So it might be making foot plates or all sorts of things, cushions, all sorts of things to make it possible for each person. We have a photographer, which may seem a weird job, but actually we need somebody there to take photographs, so to send them back home, to then let people get an idea of what we're doing, and actually to spur others to do these trips as well. And then we have someone who does admin. There's always an admin person, because that's, I think, one of the biggest jobs. And then we have a pastoral team, which is something that I'm part of, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a minute. So on that picture up there is, in fact, myself, my sister, she's a physio, so she's coming, and my dad, who's coming as a tech. So we do all three different roles: pastoral, physio, and tech. So I did my first trip to Kenya with both my dad and my sister. So it's great to be able to going again with them. So just to give you an idea of how a day goes, just a little bit brief idea. So when people come to our distribution, so we have a distribution centre, and people will come, they will be called. So people have already been out to the community, found out who needs a wheelchair and has asked them to come on a particular day. So they will come and they will register with the team, and then they have to wait. And sometimes they have to wait a long, long time, but they really don't mind. And often we kind of amuse them, like the kids. We've got lots of puppets and bubbles and all sorts to keep them amused. So then they wait. And after that, they go and see the physios. So they go and see the physio will assess them to see what they need, because it may be they don't need a wheelchair, it may be they need walking aid or something else. They assess the client, see what they need, and find the most suitable kind of wheelchair and thing for them. And after that, well, as part of that, the tech team are involved in making that wheelchair the best that they can make it for the client. So they're generally very busy. Oh, I'll just whiz through there. And then they come to the pastoral team. Yeah, so the pastoral team, which I'm part of. So I'll be working with the Kenyan team out there. So we get the opportunity to read the Bible together. I think I whizzed through two there, didn't I? Oh, where am I supposed to be pointing this? Right, there we go, that's what I want. I can't actually read it on there, so I'm going to look up here. So we get to talk to, when they come to us having received their wheelchair, we get to talk to them about how special we are to God. So often we look at Psalm 139, which talks about that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Often people in places like Kenya and in Africa, if you have a disability, you're kind of regarded as nothing. You're at the bottom of the pile. You're often left at home and forgotten about. So actually to talk to family members and talk to people themselves about how special we all are to God and that we are fearfully and wonderfully made can really change their whole way of thinking, how they view a person. And then we look at John 3:16, obviously, for God so loved the world, and we get to talk to them about Jesus. I think the pastoral role is probably the best role, because I get to work with people with disabilities, which is what I do as a job, but also get to talk to them about Jesus, which is great. So we get to read the Bible with them, maybe as a group. We often do that as a group, or sometimes an individual. I had to put this picture of this little boy, Edwin, who was on, I think it was my first trip, and he was so cute. It's such a cute photo. And we get to pray with them. Again, these are cute. We get to pray with them, which is so lovely, because they're all open to praying and reading the Bible. And then at the end, we get to give them a Bible in their own language. Sometimes we give them in English, maybe to the young people that can read English. But we get to give them in their own language, which in Kenya is Swahili. So I just wondered if you could pray for us as we go. There's lots to do, lots of preparations to be made for the safety of the team, because when you're out there, if someone's ill, it's kind of not the best place to be ill, so we don't want to be ill. So if you could pray for the safety of the team as we travel, for all the preparations, for that container that is in Kenya at the moment, that it will be released and we will have availability of those wheelchairs. And that mainly that God will prepare the hearts of those people that we will talk to, so they will receive a wheelchair. And it's amazing. I'm going to show a video in a minute and you'll get a real feel of what it's like, because often people will turn up and they will be crawling, literally, because that's the only way that they can get from A to B. So they go out with a wheelchair, with dignity, and with hearing about Jesus, so that God will prepare their hearts to not only receive a wheelchair but receive Jesus from this trip. So so I've got, that's the end of that. So I've got a little video that I'd like to just show, if that's okay. If you've got any questions about the trip, then do please come and chat with me. But yeah, just want to sit and listen. That'd be great. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Carol, for that. It's a real eye-opener, isn't it? Next time you can't get an appointment at the surgery for something, you might think of those people who have so much less access, don't they, to provision. So it's a really valuable thing that Carol's doing. And do support Karen in prayer. And also, if you'd like to support financially, I know that would be a real help as well. So do speak to Carol about that if you're able to do that. When is it you go again? 7th of November. Okay, so do remember that. Well, we're going to have a Bible reading now, so Wendy's going to come and read. And there's going to be some pictures on the screen, so you can follow it there and follow through the reading. So it's reading from the Bible from Acts chapter 14. Wendy.
Right, it's Acts chapter 14, 8 to 18. In Lystra, there sat a man who had been born crippled. He had never walked. As this man was listening to Paul speak, Paul looked straight at him and saw that he believed God could heal him. So he cried out, "Stand up on your feet." The man jumped up and began walking around. When the crowd saw what Paul did, they shouted in the Lycaonian language, "The gods have become like humans and have come down to us." Then the people began to call Barnabas Zeus and Paul Hermes, because he was the main speaker. The priest in the temple of Zeus, which was near the city, brought some bulls and flowers to the city gate. He and the people wanted to offer sacrifice to Paul and Barnabas. But when the apostles, Paul and Barnabas, heard about it, they tore their clothes. They ran in among the people shouting, "Friends, why are you doing these things? We are only human beings like you. We are bringing you the good news and are telling you to turn away from these worthless things and to turn to the living God. He is the one who made the sky, the earth, the sea, and everything in them. In the past, God let all the nations do what they wanted. Yet he proved he is real by showing kindness, by giving you rain from heaven and crops at the right times, by giving you food and filling your hearts with joy." Even with these words, they were barely able to keep the crowd from offering sacrifices to them.
Thanks very much, Wendy. And we're going to hear a bit more about that in a moment. But before that, we're going to sing another song. We've just been hearing about what Carol's going to be doing, which actually is an expression really of really an attempt to be as Jesus was is to us and was to those he met, sharing that same sense of friendship and help with people who are in desperate need. And we're going to sing now about how Jesus is that friend to us and how he is someone we can turn to, and he will help us, and he does understand us and know our concerns and helps us in them. So let's stand to sing.
Sent and
seated. I always remember we did that song a bit like that quite a few years ago now, and our brother James was at the back. None of you could see him, but he was dancing and loving it, and really in the joy of the Lord. So that's always reminds me of that. Well, we're going to think a little bit about that story that Wendy read to us. And first of all, I want us to think about signs, because signs are all around us, aren't there? Things that we look at and they kind of mean something. And some of those things are kind of very deliberately set up to do that. Other things, they just sort of, it's the way it is, and we maybe don't even know why it's like that. So it's a bit of a quiz again. So what I'm going to do is going to put some pictures up one at a time, and I want you to tell me what they are. What's the sign mean? Okay? Now, I can't quite remember what order they come in. So let's have the first one. What does that mean? Open. Yeah. Yeah, where do you see them? Shops, yeah. You don't have one on your front door, do you? I mean, someone's wondering, that could be a good idea, couldn't it? Open, closed. So yeah. Next one, what's next? Right, hands up for this one. No one put their hand up, come on. You know the answer? Well, you should have used the sign. Okay? Yeah, we all know that. I know the answer. Sometimes it's like, hands up if you've got a pet dog or something like that, isn't it? But usually it's I know the answer. I don't know that man on the right there. I'm not sure what he's. I'm not sure what he's doing. I think he might just woken up. Yeah. So, next one. No smoking. Where would you see that? Where would you think that? It's an airplane. Yeah. No smoking on airplanes. Very bad idea. Next one. What's next? How do you know that? Stop. Interesting thing about a stop sign. What's unique about a stop sign in terms of road signs? Do you know? Yeah. Totally. Same everywhere. Yeah. Okay. The other thing is, in this country at least, it's the only one that's an octagon, which is quite useful. It's because you're hurtling towards the sign. If you can't read it, you can still count the sides. 1, 2. Oh. Next one. It's a sunset or a sunrise. What does it mean? What's the sign? It's a bit more specific than that, isn't it? Yeah, red sky at night, shepherd's delight, red sky in the morning. So you'd have to know if it was evening or morning, wouldn't you? In order to be sure what it was telling you, because the message is different, isn't it? So if it's red sky at night, it's good news. If it's red sky in the morning, it's bad news. And there is some scientific reason for that, to do with the light being refracted and stuff like that. Next one. What's next? Oh yeah. Look at that. Do you see that? It's even flashing. No expense has been spared. So what does that actually mean? Turning left. Yeah, well done. Yeah, turning left. Next one. Alfie. Oh yeah. Right. Let's see the next. What's this one? Rain's coming. Yeah. Actually, rain's actually there for some people, isn't it? Yeah. If you saw clouds like that, you'd think of maybe a waterproof or umbrella, wouldn't you? And what's next? Quiet. Yeah, the funny one, that, isn't it? Because did anyone ever teach you that? I don't ever remember anyone ever teaching me that. You just know, don't you? I guess people used it when you were younger and you kind of picked up pretty quick when you got a whack when you didn't do what you were told. Interesting that. And I also wonder how universal that is. I wonder if that's true around the world. But it sort of, I don't know. It feels like you could tell what it meant even if you'd never been told. But yeah, shh. And what's the next one? Oh yeah, what's that? What's that mean? What does it tell you? Yeah. I deliberately got a picture with 2 swallows in it because there is a saying, isn't there? 1 swallow doesn't make a summer. So I got 2, so it must mean summer, mustn't it? Okay, so yes, when those birds, because they migrate from other countries, so when you see them, you know that summer's come, although there are other ways you can tell as well, although that doesn't always happen. So yeah, it's a good idea to look for the swallows. Okay, right, next one. I think we're done on those. Now, can you put the next one up? Now those signs, most of those we know what they mean. But the other day, this sign turned up in Michelle's car, and we didn't actually know immediately, partly because we can't really see anything these days, but there's this sort of light comes and what does it mean? And we were peering at it, trying to work out exactly what it was, putting our glasses on, looking at it. What is it telling us? Because sometimes there are signs and you know it's trying to tell you something, but you don't exactly know what it is. So you have to do some thinking, don't you? What does it actually mean? What does that sign? Does anyone know what that sign means? It's actually fairly obvious. Yeah, it's a bulb's blown. Yeah, okay, so the bulb's blown in the car, and you can sort of see that. So there's a bulb, and there's an exclamation mark in the middle, so it's telling you, it's warning you that a bulb has gone in your car. We eventually worked out what that meant. So sometimes you have to think, what does the sign mean? And in the story that Wendy read, it was a story about some people who actually didn't understand the sign that had happened. So Paul came, and I hadn't thought about a connection with what Carol was talking about, but Paul and Barnabas were travelling around different places, and they came to this place, and in that place there was a man who was lame, he couldn't walk. Did you see on the video some of those people who were literally crawling, pulling themselves along the ground in Carol's video? It's heartbreaking, isn't it? And it looks so painful and so difficult. And they're crawling on the ground. Well, this man was like that. And Paul and Barnabas were there, and they were telling people about Jesus, but also they came in the power of Jesus. And when they looked and they saw this man, Paul could see that he had faith, that he trusted in what they were saying, and he was believing their message. And so he said and said the word, and the man was healed. He could stand up. So imagine that. Imagine if that happened in Africa for Carol, that someone was healed in that way. And it would be amazing. And that's what happened. And this man stood up and he could walk. And that was like a sign. It was like a sign had come on in the car, or a sign had come on by the side of the road. But the question was, would the people understand the sign? Or would they miss the importance of the sign? And actually, what it tells us is they actually got it wrong, because they thought that their gods, Zeus and Hermes, had come down. They thought that Paul was Hermes and Zeus was Barnabas, and they thought, there must be those two gods. They're these idols they had, these gods they thought were what controlled part of their life, and they thought that they'd arrived. So they then start, trying to worship them and offer sacrifices to them like they're gods. And the thing is, they've completely misunderstood the sign. They've completely got it wrong. They've messed up. They haven't understood it at all. So a bit like some of those signs there, it could be really serious, couldn't it, if you messed up the sign and if you didn't understand what it was saying. Now, one of those signs I was thinking of, those signs that I put up there on the screen, the one I think probably that you'd say is probably the most serious one there was the stop sign, wasn't it? Because what that means is when you're driving along the road and you come to a junction and you've got to stop. And often it means you can't see very well when you get there. So you really need to stop, because if you don't stop, you might fly out into the road and a lorry might come past and hit you. So what you've got to do is you've got to be really careful there. Stop. Really important to stop. And that sort of sign really matters. And what we discover is that actually this sign, this man standing up, which was a sign of something, what did it mean? It was a sign you really need to understand it right. And these people, they didn't understand it right, because they thought it was Zeus and Hermes. They're gods they'd made up. They weren't real gods. They weren't the God who made us, the God who loves us and sent Jesus. Said, not that God. This was a made-up God. So they read the sign wrong. That's what happened here. And the thing is, that was not a small mistake. It's not a kind of little problem that you can kind of just brush aside. Oh, well, get your gods wrong, don't really matter. Some people worship this God, some people worship that God.
actually what we discover is that it really matters, because Paul and Barnabas, who were the ones at the centre of it all, they're so concerned about this. They actually tear their clothes, which to us would look a bit odd, but in those days it was a sign of desperation and of sadness. And so what they're doing is they're showing, no, you've made a massive mistake here. You thought that we're Zeus and Hermes, but no, that isn't what's going on. And what that tells us, and this is really important, what it tells us is that the question of what God there is and what holds this world together is not a small thing. It's not a kind of, oh yeah, take your pick, do what you like, it doesn't really matter. It's actually something that's really important to get right. It's at least as important as a stop sign. And it's far more important than that. And it's not something we should push aside. So don't think that what you think about God is a small matter in your life. It's actually the most important matter in your life. And Paul and Barnabas show us that actually that's really important. But what they then go on to do is, and this is really the main thing, what they then go on to do is they then go on to try to show these people exactly what God is like, exactly what evidence there is that there is a God, the God of the Bible, a God who is a living God, a God who loves us and cares for us. And what do they do? What do you think? I wonder what you think you would do if you had to persuade somebody that there was a God, a living God, like the God of the Bible. What would you do? And sometimes this is an interesting one, because we sometimes think, don't we, that if only a miracle like that man being healed would happen, everybody would believe and everybody would understand. If only that would happen. And the interesting thing is, in this case, when that did happen, they got it completely wrong. But what Paul and Barnabas actually turned to try to persuade people about the truth is something actually that we would think is much more ordinary and maybe a little bit dull in comparison. But that would be to misunderstand something. So we need to think about what that is, because what does he go on to say? Well, he goes on to say, we're bringing you good news and telling you to turn away from these worthless gods you've made up, Zeus and Hermes, and turn to the living God. He is the one who made everything. And in the past, God let the nations do what they want, but now he has proved he is real by showing kindness, by giving you rain from heaven and crops at the right time, by giving you food and filling your hearts with joy. In other words, here's the thing. Here's the sign that will actually point you to the living God. It's the fact, put simply, that you have food. That's what he's saying. Food. Look at it all here. This is extra as far as we're concerned, isn't it? It's what we're going to give away. I wonder, it'd be interesting to have a look to see where all this food came from, wouldn't it? But I know sometimes I'm quite surprised about where our food comes from. You think, goodness me, is that really the best way to get our food? But we have so much food. This is the leftovers, if you like. This is extra that we've got. And their argument is, just look at how God has provided for you and given you food. That tells you that God is there, that he's living, that he's caring for you, and that he's providing you with what you need. That's the thing they go do. Forget the lame man. You're obviously not going to get that right, that miracle right. But think about this, that God is providing you with everything that you need. And what that's telling us is that, the food that we have, and I don't know if you ever thought about this, we just think it's just there, don't we? Oh, it's just food, isn't there? Oh, there's always food. And the reality is, the food we eat is not something that came by accident. It's something that God provided you. And God has given you, very deliberately, out of his care for you. Now, that I'm not denying, because I absolutely can see it, that the food that we have comes because we live in a world that's just right. The temperature's just right. The atmosphere's just right. The seasons are right, which means because we're tilted the right way, for the right angle, and we get summer and winter and autumn and spring. And those things and that pattern is what gives us food. So wheat, which is what pasta is made from, I think that, made from Durham wheat. So wheat only grows where there's been a winter as well as a summer. So it needs the cycle of the seasons in order for it to grow. And that's important. And it's something that gives us a huge amount of our food. Every time you eat pasta, be thankful that there are seasons and that there's, summer, winter, autumn, spring. That's not the right order, but anyway. And that's not an accident. That is God. God has given you that. And the thing is, he was saying, wasn't he, to those people, God has given you food. Now, I could say God has given you food, and that's evidence. Think of your life. Think of all the food you've got available to you. But actually, it's far bigger than that, isn't it? Because God hasn't just given you food. He's given all of us food. And he's given all of Gosport food. And he's given all of this country food, all of our continent, and all of the world has got food. And I thought it'd be good for us to try and visualise that a little bit. So, how many people are in the world? Does anyone know how many people there are in the world? Robert? 8.1 billion. I got it at 7.9, but let's not quibble over 200 million. Well, let's say 8 billion. That's a lot of people, isn't it? Can you visualise 8? No, you can't visualise 8 billion people. It's impossible to visualise 8 billion people. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to make it a little bit easier, okay? Now, what's in here are some flags. And you're all going to make a flag, okay? Or if it's really difficult, get someone next to you to help. Now, what there is in here, there should be exactly the right number of flags. So what you do is quickly pass those round. Get yourself a flag and a stick. And then what you do, can someone start sending those round? What you do, go on Molly, go pass them around. What you do is you just get this little straw, not the gold end, the other end. Get that and you poke it down in there. No, I'm not going to be able to do it. Oh yeah, there you go, down in the sleeve like that. And then you've got a flag, okay? So take a stick. If you've got a favourite colour, you can take the colour. I'll tell you about the colours in a minute. So that's mine. Okay, so let's get that going. Now, while they're going round and while you're making your flags, I'll tell you what it's all about. So there are 53 people here today. Well, there's 51 in the room, aren't there? But basically, if you divide the world population by 53, okay, you get a number which I've forgotten. You get 151 million, okay? So what that means is each of you with your flag represent 151 million people, okay? Can you imagine? I mean, it makes it slightly easier, doesn't it? Okay? But you are there, each of you with your flag, you're there waving the flag for 151 million people in the world. And each of us represents 151 million people in the world. Okay, 151 million is still a number I can't really understand, but it's about double the population of this country. So it's about 2 Great Britons or United Kingdoms of people. Okay, so that's that. Now the colours of the flags mean something. What do you think the colours mean? Anyone got any ideas what the colours mean? Not countries, no. Not exactly territories. Continents is what it represents. Okay. Now, can you see what are there a lot more of colour-wise in the room? Green. Yeah. Okay. So which continent do the green flags represent? Africa. No. Asia. Okay. So the population of Asia, which is kind of China, India, and then right across to the eastern end of the Mediterranean, the population of Asia represents around 60% of the world's population. So it's over 4, I can't remember the exact number, it's over 4 billion people. I think more like 5 billion people in Asia. So if you've got a green flag, you represent 151 million people from Asia. And between you, you represent all of those. So the next largest continent is what, do you think, in terms of people? Not in terms of size, people? Africa. Okay, so if you've got a red flag, that's Africa. And then if you've got a blue flag, you're Europe. And the pinky one is North America. And it's up there. The yellow one is South America. Okay. Now you might say, what about Australia and all that? Well, here's the thing. This just blows your mind. Okay. The population of Australia and New Zealand and that continent, which is known as Oceania, isn't it, or Australasia sometimes, the population of that is too small to register in the way we've done it. Okay. So it's about I think about 40 million people. And because you represent 151 million people, it's less than one person. In fact, it's just a fraction of one person. So they don't even register on the scale. Doesn't that blow your mind? A whole massive nation that doesn't even fit. So has everyone got a flag? Okay, let's get your flags waving then. So look around the room, look around all those flags. Each flag represents 151 million people in the world. And from all those different continents. And all of those people, now, but you can put the flags down now. That is a lot of people. Largely speaking, all of those people have food. Now you might say, yeah, but aren't there people who are starving? Aren't there famines? Yeah, there are. And that does happen. But I've got some shocking facts for you. Because sometimes people say, yeah, how are we going to feed the world? How are we going to feed all those people? And people say, and the other problem is the population's going up. So by 2050, they reckon it's going to be 10 billion. And people say, how are we going to feed 10 billion people? And the shocking fact is that the world already produces enough food for 10 billion people. Did you know that? It already produces enough. The thing is, we waste it. So in the developed world, about 670 million tons of food is wasted every year. And in our part of the world, it's wasted because when you scrape it off your plate into the bin, or you chuck out the thing in the fridge that you bought that you never used, or the shops throw it away because it's out of date, or the restaurants chuck it away at the end of the day because they haven't used it. We're wasting a massive amount of food. And in the developing world, the part that includes where Carol's going, the problem's there are not so much people don't waste it when they get it. It gets wasted before it gets to people. So they haven't got they can't transport it quick enough, or they can't refrigerate it and it gets wasted. And a similar amount is wasted in the developing world. And altogether, 1.3 billion tons of food is thrown away every year. There's plenty of food to go around, and there's enough food even for 10 billion people. So actually, in terms of the world's ability to produce, there's plenty of food. In fact, I won't do it, but I've got here, now I've got my packets muddled up. Well, I think it's these. No, it might be those. Basically, there's another 13 flags which would represent the extra 2 billion people. So we could have had extra flags. That's the number of people that God has provided food for in the world. And it's really helpful for us to look at that big picture, because that's a sign. That's what he's saying here. That's a sign that God is there, that there is a living God who loves you and cares for you. And as we step back and we look at the world, wave your flags again, all those people have got food. All those people have got food. God is providing food. And here we're so fortunate. We've got all this excess. We probably could have put a lot more, couldn't we, if we'd really gone for it. But we've done really, really well. So God is providing for this world. God is providing for you. And the Bible is telling us that that's a sign that God is there and that he loves you and that he wants the best for you, that he's showing his kindness to you. And the question is, are you reading the sign properly? Have you seen it? Have you noticed what God is doing for us and for our world and how he loves it and cares for it? Don't dismiss it as, oh, that's just the way the world is. It's amazing the way our world is. Everything is finely tuned so that the world produces what we need. That's not an accident. It's because there's a God who loves us, who has put us in a world made so that it will provide for us. And he is providing for all those people, 10 billion people, and we're throwing away the food for 2 billion. What an amazing God he is and how kind he is. And here's the thing, that's the kindness of God to us. But there's more than that to show us what a kind and loving God he is. Because, of course, if that doesn't convince you, which it should, think about Jesus. Think about the fact that God, in his love and his generosity, has provided his son Jesus to come and to live, to die, and to rise for us. And it says in John 3:16, very well-known words, God loved the world so much that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him may not be lost, but have eternal life. And if you still doubt, having looked at God's provision for the world, that he loves you and cares for you, then look at Jesus and look at the death of Jesus on the cross and realise that that tells you, amplifies the message of God's provision for the world, that he loves and cares for us, that he cares for you, and that he is calling you to turn back to him and not go after other gods, not go after other things that we make the God of our lives, but to put our trust in him, because he is the one who provides us with everything that we need. So remember that sign, because it's a really good one. And as we finish, and then we'll have drinks and then lunch after that in a bit, but we're going to sing that song again, So the Goodness of God. And it really does reflect, I think, what Paul and Barnabas were saying. The goodness of God is there. It's in a sense, it's running after you. It's there. God is providing. But I wonder what you've done with the goodness of God. Have you turned in love and worship to him because of his goodness? Or are you carrying on as though it's just something that is there and that there's no one giving all these good things to you? So let's sing.
Dear loving God, forgive us because so often we lived in this world like everything was just there. There was no hand behind it, there was no giver. And we're sorry about that. So we just pray you'd help us to see in all the good things we enjoy, when we eat a little bit later and when we go out from here and we enjoy all sorts of good things. We just pray you would help us to see behind it your goodness and your hand providing for us what we need. Sorry that we have not returned to you the love and the honour that you deserve. And we pray that you would help us to do that, and especially to recognise that in Jesus you were at great cost to yourself, showing your love to us, showing your kindness, showing that you are there. And help us not to ignore that, but to turn in trust and in sorrow for what we've done, but trust in your forgiveness, hope in your new life. And may we do that, honouring you for everything you've done, and showing in our lives that we recognise that you are there and that you've provided so much for us. In Jesus' name, amen.